Hello everybody, Calamity here, and I hope you guys are enjoying the new Nod Krai region. I haven't really been able to play it myself because I've just been busy making videos for you guys. Hopefully I get to it soon. But here we are again with another video. This time we're talking about the Chronicled Wish banner for the Sumeru characters this time around. And I'm going to explain to you how the banner works, my 2 cents on the characters and the weapons that are on this banner, and that'll be it. So first of all, before we even start pulling or talking about characters and weapons on this banner, what do you need to know? First of all, pity for this banner is exclusive to this banner. Just for the newcomers out there that haven't seen a Chronicled Wish, or you're returning and you first time seeing a Chronicled Wish banner, you're not sure how they work. If you have pity on a character banner or a weapon banner, it does not magically carry over to the Chronicled Wish banner and vice versa. So if you pulled on here and you're like, oh, I lost my 50-50, but let me go back and get that new 5-star. No, that's not how that works. I know you'd like it to work that way, but it does not work like that way, unfortunately. It will, however, carry over to the next Chronicled Wish banner. When that is, though, I can't say. Obviously, I don't know. It could be a few months from now. It could be some early 2026. I don't know. I don't really recommend saving too much pity on this banner anyways, because there is the fate point system. If you've pulled on the weapon banner before, you're familiar with what this is. But basically, you're gonna pick a character or a weapon, and if you lose your 50-50, you will gain a fate point. So the next time you get a 5-star while pulling on this banner, it will 100% be the weapon or the character that you pulled for. Now keep in mind that your fate points are not saved. So if you get one fate point but you're like, oh, I don't have enough gems to pull for the character or the weapon, you better start exploring and get them, because once this banner is gone, that is it. You're gonna lose the fate point, and that's gonna be a total waste of gem investment, because you could have gotten a guaranteed character or weapon, but now you lose the fame point, and that's really bad. So don't do that. Make sure you have enough for the worst case scenario, should your luck not be in your favor. And one more thing I want to mention is that if you pull for characters on this banner, that is what you will get. There's no like world where, oh my god, I got super lucky, I got my Nilo and I got her signature weapon all in one temple. No. Once again, so if you say like, oh, I want to pull for Nilo, you could, in theory, get like a Nilo and maybe a Wander or something if you got super lucky and got multiple 5-stars, sure. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But that is how the pulls are going to work, basically. So character, if you choose a character, you will get characters. If you choose a weapon, you will get weapons. Of course, you can still get 4-star characters or 4-star weapons, regardless of what you pick as your path. Whatever you set your path to, you can still get 4-stars that way. Now, with all those boring rules being said, let's move on to the next boring answer, and that is, who should you pull for? Who's worth pulling? Etc, etc. The character you should pull for is the one that you really want off this banner. If there is a character in here that you just loved in the Sumeru arc of this story and you just love their personality, maybe you got to try them out a little bit in the story and you're like, oh man, this playstyle is sick. Or you watch some gameplay on YouTube, or you've seen your friends use this character and you're like, dude, I want that character. Go for it. Absolutely go for it. Do what you want to do. Now, with that being said, I do want to note, though, if you are more of a meta person or someone that cares about not having a really hard time in endgame content or challenging content in the future, we did just get into Nod Krai, right? And the characters in that region are definitely going to power creep anything in this banner for sure. But they're also going to probably be meta for at least a year, right? Because now lane characters, if you guys remember that experience, a lot of them were meta, or a lot of them are still meta, over a year later. And a lot of the combat events, a lot of the end game modes had something like, oh, Night Soul Blessing, blah, 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 does more damage if you do Night Soul Blessing. So just trying to give you some perspective if, end game stuff is something you want to like actually beat and have not as much of a hard time doing so. then consider the newer characters that will be coming out in the next upcoming months and weeks. Now, sorry about all of that build-up, but now we can actually talk about more of these characters in detail, as well as the weapons. Again, there's a lot of characters, even though it's less than what it used to be in the past, and not too many weapons, but we'll just briefly go over each one because we're not trying to be here forever and make this like some 30-minute long video. Now, first of all, Dia and Tainari, we're just going to skip. They are standard banner characters. Please do not use the Chronicled Wish banner for a standard character, standard banner character, excuse me. In fact, you can, if you want them so bad, use your free 5-star standard banner character selector and choose Dia or Tainari. They're on there. And you can even give them a constellation if you wish. Now, the only characters we have left to talk about are Alhaitham. I named my Wanderer Fujin, so obviously whatever you named Wanderer will be there, and Sinnoh and Nilo. Alhaitham, Wanderer, and Sinnoh are all main DPS characters. They are the drivers on the team. They're the ones doing the damage. They're the ones that need the off-field supports and the off-field damage dealers to make them the best, or to make them do the most damage that they can. So for Alhaitham, first of all, I'm surprised Hoyoverse isn't letting you Alhaitham mains have a constellation for him. I don't think Alhaitham is OP or broken in any way that he shouldn't be allowed to have free constellations. I honestly think probably A tier at best. I think he's a solid DPS character, but I don't think anyone is saying, oh my goodness, Alhaitham, that dude's so OP or anything like that. Same with Wanderer. He is a Animo DPS, and he will definitely appreciate teammates like Faruzan, who can shred Animo resistance and buff Animo damage as well. If you do pull for him, I highly recommend a shield of some kind, especially when you're just out exploring, because you know he has this state when you use his elemental skill, right, where he can float around and do damage. But if you get hit by any sort of ranged attack or anything, it knocks you out of the air, and you'll take additional damage if you're high up, right, because of the fall damage. And that feels really bad, so highly recommend you give him a shielder or someone to help support him when he's flying around. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad time. Sinnoh, unfortunately, has been power crept by a certain wrestler in Natlan who's just does insane damage. And honestly, now we also have Inefa who enables the new Lunar Bloom, or excuse me, Lunar Charged reaction, and that's really, really strong. I think you can use Sinnoh in those kinds of teams, but he's more suited, I believe, for Aggravate, so you would pair him up with Denjo characters. But he does have some team variety, of course, so it's never just like set in stone, like use only this one team with Sinnoh and that's it. That's one of the few benefits of him. But yeah, if you really like his playstyle and you don't like the other Electro DPS that are available to you, that includes Raiden Shogun, Varessa, Chlorind, or anything like that, or you're not interested in Lunar Bloom, or keep calling it Lunar Bloom, Lunar Charge teams, then by all means, Sinnoh is going to be someone you should consider. Now, last but certainly not least is a character that got a major buff this patch, and that's a Nilo. And why did she get a major buff this patch? I'll show you, and I'm sure you know why. There's a certain character that just came out called Lauma, who synergizes really, really well with Nilo. She upgrades your Dendro reactions into Lunar Bloom. And Lunar Bloom basically is a version of Bloom that just does more damage. And because Nilo also has her own version of Bloom, it's not a new reaction, but she has special Dendro cores that do more damage. Nilo can Lunar Bloom her own Dendro cores. That's insanely high damage for any Nilo enjoyer out there. So if obviously this is a tall order to ask you to pull for 2 5-star characters, but if you have Nilo or have Lauma, you could consider trying to pull one or the other, but that's all up to you. If you think the team is worth it, if you think the team is going to be a lot of fun for you, definitely consider getting them both. Now, the thing about Nilo that you should know is that she's definitely made for like groups of enemies, because you can make so many Dendro cores at once. She can do okay at bosses, but definitely not recommended. I recommend using her for groups of enemies, or like, you know, like 2 or 3 like elites or something, or if you're fighting like the Magu Kenki trio. She can do really well there because she can damage all of them simultaneously while also making Denjo cores off all three of them. Not only did she just get a strong teammate, but Nilo is also available to get a free constellation. I should have mentioned that as well. Al-Haytham cannot, but you can also give a free constellation to every single character on this banner if you so choose to with the I forgot what the system is called, but basically it's like a daily system. Once you do 8 of them, you get a con, and you can give that to any of these characters here except Al-Haytham. So consider that. And you know, with Nilo, even though her C1, I kind of already talked about everyone's C1, C2 in a previous video, I will just briefly say that, like, yes, her C1 is okay at best. It does make her more of a driver for sure. Her C2 is what you're eventually hoping to build up, even though it will take you a long time to get this, especially if you're only going to be getting constellations from this free system that we just got introduced to. This constellation right here is going to be a gigantic power spike for her team. Crazy resistance shred. Stack that with Llama and your numbers are going to be insanely high. All right, and before we move on to the weapons, there is one more thing I forgot to mention about Nilo's Bloom teams in general, and that in the past, one of the biggest weaknesses of her teams was that, remember I used to say, like, oh, you know, the biggest weakness of Nilo is that she does damage to herself and her teammates, and you know, the hardest part is having a healer sustain you all. In this update, I haven't really tested it extensively myself, but I've been told that there's been a huge reduction in the self damage you take from your own blooms. So hopefully that is the case, and that is just like another reason you should consider pulling for if you are going to pull a character off this banner, I gotta give it to Nilo. She's definitely looking like the best option right now out of everybody, just because of, you know, the current changes and the current new 5-star character that just came out. Now let's move on to the weapons. So there isn't really much to say, right? Like, if you want to see the damage numbers for your character go up, get their signature weapon, and it will. How much is going to be dependent on the character. You can see anywhere from like a 20% damage increase depending on the character. For Tighnari, though, even though him and Dia's signature weapon are really rare, I feel like the Toyoverse should just add them to the standard banner already, because it's weird that they're not there and these weapons are just rare for no reason. Tighnari is completely fine with like a 3-star weapon. In fact, mine is still rocking the slingshot and he's doing the end game content with it and he's fine. Like, obviously, would it be nice if he had the Hunter's Path? Yeah. But is he doing fine with the slingshot right now? And the answer is still yeah. So I don't really find the need to pull for the Hunter's Path. I would only recommend it if you're like a low spender and you just want to collect all the weapons, at least have a copy of them, then sure, I guess, but not really much of a reason to. And for the Dia players out there, this is only good if you plan to have your Dia be a main DPS, which means you're going to need some constellations for her in order for this weapon to really get some value. Because otherwise, if you're building her as a support, as in she's just made to just take damage for the team, she's just a tank, you don't really need this. And if she's your Burgeon character, then you certainly don't need this because you just need Elemental Mastery. So if she's the Burgeon driver, not necessary. If she's just the support tank character, also not necessary. This is only if you want to start really punching your enemies and having the numbers be actually noticeable. With that being said, the biggest weapon change here is going to be the key of the Kaj Nizit. I don't know how to say this word, I'm sorry. But this is Nilo's signature weapon. And this is going to make Nilo become the driver of her own team, basically, because it converts your massive amounts of HP that you should be investing into her artifacts into Elemental Mastery. This is really good. This makes it so that she will have a bit of a playstyle change, right? If you give her this weapon and you make her the driver, that means you're going to be making sure that she's the one setting off all of the bloom stuff, or at least helping with it with her elemental skill. So you want to pair her up with some nice Denjo characters, and now she'll be popping off, doing a bunch more damage, right? Because she's not only getting a bunch of HP increase, she's now getting a bunch of elemental mastery, which might have been hard for you to get both of, right, when you're doing her artifact. So Obviously, a lot of us were just focusing on as much HP as possible. Maybe some energy recharge, sure, but you know, not every artifact piece had both HP percentage and elemental mastery, and had it heavily roll into EM substats. Very, very good weapon for her. And again, with all of the changes and all of the buffs I just mentioned, definitely worth considering. Not much else to say again for the other weapons. They are going to do their jobs in making your character of choice do more damage, so pull for the one you want. And with that being said, that is pretty much going to do it for the Chronicled Wish. I just thought I'd make a short-ish video just talking about the banner itself and talking about all the characters and the weapons on it briefly. So hopefully this was helpful for somebody. If you still have more questions about these characters, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer you. Or, you know, maybe someone that has more knowledge on these characters than me can help you out if you have more specific questions. And with that being said, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot. We'll be pumping out more content for this brand new update, so stay tuned. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.